On Point, hosted by Peter Van Aardrijk. Conversations with interesting and informative experts on technology, branding, culture, social media marketing, and other great topics.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Peter Van Aardrijk, your host for On Point, brought to you by our good friends at Wells Media, which includes Carrier Management, Insurance Journal, and other fine publications. Our guest today is Amy Reczek, who's a sales speaker and author. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Yes, I'm looking forward to this. Insurance is it's all about selling something, and I hope we can impart some good knowledge. Run a vacuum cleaner over your brain and share some good nuggets for the folks out there, especially the folks who are in the trenches, the customer service reps, the producers, and so forth. For those who want to see a little bit more about Amy, the website is salesandpresence.com. That's salesandpresence.com. Okay, Amy, where are you from originally? Let's talk a little bit about you first. And you have a background in psychology, which I also have a background from Rutgers University. I really missed those classes. I really loved them. But how did that sort of influence how you built, your MO, as it were, in all your training and writing and speaking?
So it started way back in the day when I actually started in sales. I needed a job, basically. Started in inside sales, did not know what that was at the time. And really it was communicating and connecting with people, really. And so I thought, I can hang with this. This is kind of fun. It aligns with what I loved in college and what my degree was in. And then they put me into outside sales. So then I got to see people face to face. And then that's all she wrote for that. When I was transferring out of my corporate sales to what I do now, one of the big things for me was that I pulled so much from that psych degree over my years of sales that I wanted to really make sure that that was in focus and in alignment for what we do. Because every single day when we're talking to people, we get a little held up in our brain around, I have to sell something, or I have to pitch this, or this is what I want. This is the outcome I want out of this. And if we roll that all back, it's communicating and connecting with another human. And so there's a lot of psychological effects that happen with that. And so bringing that front and center was definitely a main goal for the company.
Yeah. What kind of industry was the inside and outside sales?
Oh, it was, so I always tell people when you buy a house and they pull your credit report, that was me. I sold the credit report into banks and credit unions. I had about 5 different states that I covered. I did that for 17 years. I absolutely loved it. What's interesting about that is that it is similar to insurance in that it's very nuanced. You have to have a lot of information and expertise around what you can and can't do with that. And then you're educating in real time constantly with loan officers, with managers on how to do that per transaction to get that person into a home, which is pretty phenomenal when that end user is never going to know me. And so it was a really great thing to be a part of for a long time.
Yeah. So can you talk a little more about the psychology behind that human connection you said? And so many people come out of school, universities with like a marketing degree, and they often, people need jobs, so they get a job, and very often it's in sales, but it's kind of cloaked as marketing. And these are young people in their early 20s who are coming in and just trying to get started. So, they stick them in the trenches there. But it sounded like you kind of got, quote, psyched about it. Well, a lot of people
I did.
they get turned off pretty quickly because maybe they're fighting against those very things you say you shouldn't be.
Yeah, sure. It was a sink or swim in my industry. So when I first traveled out, my very first time seeing clients, potential clients, no one was with me. So I had no manager. I had no one helping me, supporting me. So I had to really decide quickly, what am I going to do? Because I wasn't in the industry long enough to know all the nuances or know all the information that I did 5 years down the road. So I really had to think on my feet a little bit, and I just turned right back to that human element. Well, these people care about X. I'm here to sell something to help them support X. How best can I help them and serve them with that? And so their success really was what I focused on instead of my pitch and my product. And so it's a mindset shift that has to happen first within that. And I would say that's one of the biggest things we talk about when we're talking to clients is first, let's talk about the mindset shift. Corporate and business teaches one way, right? And that's completely okay because you need to get that baseline of information. But then how do you talk track it to have that impact and have that connection instead of going in and saying, hi, I'm Amy with XYZ. Here's what we offer. I'd like to know what's on your desk that I can take off your plate. Right? That is not a human connection. That is old school selling, which really doesn't align with any industry anymore. So we're looking for what's on your plate that I want to be curious about. I want to learn more about because every situation and every client is different. So I would say the very first thing is your mindset shift. Stay in that curiosity mode. That will get you further than anything else.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because not funny, but insurance has there's a lot of things to sell. There's a lot of policies, a lot of jargon, a lot of nuance, a lot of stuff that is, like you say, one way, like here's the industry, here's what I got for you. Well, the truth is, and I know you do a lot of work in the insurance industry as well. I should have said that up top. The truth is people don't really care about insurance. Obviously people have claims and so forth, but they're only thinking about if it's property and casualty insurance, it's once a year renewal. Typically, they have a lot of other things on their minds, keeping good employees, having a good, HR package, OSHA compliance. I mean, there's so much stuff that business owners and families as well are thinking about. That kind of plays in, I think, what you're saying, the mindset shift, where it's get around the table, sit with somebody. I don't mean physically, but get in their world a little bit more. Be curious, learn what's in their world, because the selling can come later, right? Because you're trying to be of significance to them. You're trying to help them. It's not selling; it's helping. That's I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but it's so needed in the insurance industry because we have so much stuff all the time, stuff to sell. It's just words. It's pieces of paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really a question.
No, I'm going to back you though. I'm going to back you, Peter. I would say yes. So people buy from people. They don't buy from companies. And so when we think, again, mindset shift on that, they are looking for people that they emotionally can connect with. Psychologically, we buy with emotion first, and then we justify the buy. So it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but subconsciously that's what we're doing. We're always looking for that connection. We're always looking for that emotional feed, and we're looking for people that are like us, and we're looking for people that understand us. And the reason why that we technically sometimes can get in our own head and come at it with all the products and the services and the things that we offer is because we're in what we call rear eye framing, which is all about me right now. It's all about me. I can serve you this. I can do this for you. I can help you with this. The reason why we do that are a couple of reasons. Obviously, we said in the beginning, business teaches us to be similar like that. However, we also care about I. As humans, we care about I first. So again, that mindset shift of so does our client. They care about themselves first. So they're not caring about what, we offer per se. They need it, yes. But what they really care about are the things you just touched on, right? Looking forward to what's happening in the year to come. What is going on with compliance? What's going on with my team? Is everyone okay? How are we shifting this way or this way to make sure that there's success there? There's so many different things that are going on that when we tap into that, then we have that emotional connection of doing business as success together instead of one person selling, one person buying. So it's a big mindset shift, and it's beautiful when it works. And we've all have felt that, right? We've all felt that awesome connection. Anybody listening right now, think of a client that you absolutely love or someone that you absolutely love working with. It's because there's an emotional tie and connection there. You feel like you're understood. You can call them at a drop of a hat and say, yes, they're going to help me and support me. That means a lot. That means a lot.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So your company's called Sales and Presence. What do you mean by presence in a professional or sales context? I can assume, but
Yeah. So psychology is part of what we do. Then we go into the sales side of that, which is all of the quote unquote hard skills of sales. If you have that baseline, you're good to go. Now we're going to move into more of that presence or those deemed soft skills. We call those power skills. Your power skills are really those nonverbal connections. So we look a lot at that. How are we listening? How are we walking into a room with power? How are we communicating without ever saying a word? We do this. It's the biggest thing that we will always do in communication first before we ever start speaking. And a lot of times we do not utilize this in, number one, any training in business, but then two, in any sort of life event to be aware of that. We've all felt that. We've all felt shifts in people. If there's a comment made or you're discussing something and somebody shifts a different way or seems now standoffish in how they're communicating with you nonverbally, those are really big tells. And we do those all the time. And so we will put in our curriculum a lot of that nonverbal to help you succeed within all of your communication sides. Communication is actually 4 components. So we have thinking, listening, speaking, and nonverbal. When we think of communication, we go straight to speaking and we forget about the other 3. So we really make sure that all 4 of those are in alignment whenever we're communicating with clients.
oh, I love that stuff. Brings me back to my psych classes.
Mm-hmm. It's so fun.
Yeah, I know, because it's kind of like we're hardwired as human beings, right? To be a certain way. So how do you even have a conversation with somebody without applying all this all this psych stuff? Do you want to
Mhm.
do every single conversation? Like it's fascinating. People are fascinating, aren't they?
Yes. Yes. If we stay in that curiosity mindset, we can learn so much.
Mm-hmm.
So much within a, 10, 15-minute time span of what's really happening with them. We can have some insight on, so they're talking like they're fine, but I don't know, something's not jiving today.
Mm-hmm.
We feel that with people who are close to us. We don't give enough bandwidth or room to watch that and be curious with business professionals.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still human.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's walking around with stuff. So the stuff is good and the stuff is bad and the stuff is meh in between. And so really meeting them where they are a little bit better is very helpful in
Yeah.
moving that success forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you I want to get back to a couple things you said earlier, but you have my wheels spinning. Like do you see gender differences in this? A lot of times, I notice people, and it can be men and women, or sometimes they come across as a little gruff. They people want to get to the point, and I'm sure that if you're in a sales situation, you only got a couple of minutes with a business owner, that you're just going to go right back to the sales 101 stuff you learned and forget about the way to break through.
Uh-huh.
I find people who sometimes come across that way are kind of on the inside. They have a lot of pain. There's a lot of
Mhm.
things that they're anxious. They're anxious about something.
Yep.
And but also I think you tell me, but I know that there can be some gender differences that, people need to know about too. And the other one I wanted to ask you was age. I heard once that
Mm.
people tend to buy plus minus 5 years their age. It's good to match, a younger producer with a younger business owner, as opposed to a 60-year-old agency owner going in and trying to do it. I don't even know if that's true. That's what I've heard though. Can you comment
Yeah.
on any of those things?
Well, way to go down a huge rabbit hole.
I love rabbit holes.
Gender gender's a big animal.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously there are going to be differences, bigger and smaller within gender, especially in business. And there are nuances that each gender is looking at and maneuvering through, right? So I think that we need to be mindful of that. I hear a lot of times, we over here hear, oh, you're a female-owned business. How did you even do that? Right? And for me, I'm like, well, I just do what I do. I don't know. You know, I just go.
Yeah.
But for a lot of women, especially younger women in the industry, we get a lot of questions on how can I be more confident in the room? How can I show myself as confident when I'm not speaking? And there are definitely ways to do that. And I think that some of what they are seeing or feeling with our company over here are the things that I mindfully practice daily to then train on. Right. And so none of us are born with charisma. None of us are born with confidence. None of us are born with anxiety. All of those things, or nervousness, all of those things are kind of taught through our upbringing and different situations that we're put in. And so it really depends on the person. It depends on the moment. But there are certain things that either gender, both, can do to support themselves. Now, the flip side of that's not talked about as much, I will say, is that we get equally as many men coming to say, how do I build my confidence? So there is a lack of understanding that is a universal. And so we really would like to bring that to the forefront of everyone has confidence issues sometimes. Everyone on the planet. It's a normal thing. And so to work around that and make sure that we have our self-centered enough to be confident in a room, and to show our worth in a room, that's a lot. And if we can do that, then we've won the day. We've won the day. Doesn't matter if we're going to work with that client or not. If you have struggled with that and you can walk in with that, I would say congrats to you. Go do something to celebrate. Those are big, big things that we don't think about. We just push through with industry knowledge and what we need to do next. So those gender differences are definitely there. But I think that they are closer in alignment than we may think on the surface. Also, age. Yes. Huge, huge topic. I talk about this weekly with teams. There is definitely this mindset that if younger, then it's harder to get in. It's harder to talk to people who've been in the industry for a long time. I have not heard the information that you had stated where the alignment is within a certain age range. That
Okay.
may be true. I think that could go back to if we're thinking about people attract to people that are like-minded, right? That are like them. Here's the flip of that, though. I would say for anyone who is young, who says, I don't know as much as they do. I haven't been in the industry as long. They're tenured and I'm pretty young in this. Then my pushback would be to say a couple things. Number one, that means that you have knowledge that they don't. So one would be technology out of the gate. Everyone grew up on tech that's coming into the industry now. And so they have that mindset and they have that angle that people who've been in it for 20, 30 years do not have, unless they're trendy, right? And so those are some of those really interesting nuances with that era that you can bring in to maybe a generation that you don't align with 100%. The other side of that is staying curious. Everyone loves to help. So if you were looking at someone, or if you're walking into a room of people who are tenured or been in it for 20, 30 years, give yourself a break of what you're going to do and stay really curious and make sure that you have really great questions to ask so that you can learn. There is nothing more monumental than walking into a situation like that and learning from others who have been through it for years and years. And those people normally like to give that and help with that. And so I think that is a very exciting opportunity instead of a less than opportunity.
We talked about several times. You talked about subtle things like body language, and maybe we can start with language. So what kinds of changes that you think in the language we use work well in these situations?
Yeah, the verbal language
Yeah.
you're saying? Yes. So we tend to have filler words and diminisher words. Filler words are you'll hear them now for the rest of the podcast. Those things are not as bad when you're talking freely in a conversation like this or over coffee. If you were giving a presentation or running a meeting, we want to make sure we're more buttoned up on those filler words. Those to me are you processing in real time. Instead of silence, you're filling with those filler words. The flip of that is more detrimental, and those are your diminisher words. So diminisher words actually diminish your worth and how people feel about you. So we want to make sure that and very mindful that we are looking to take those out. There are lots of them. I'll give you mine. My biggest one is just. So just following up to see if, or just checking in. All of those, just is one of those diminisher words. So it's a softer quote unquote ask in my brain. It's not as direct, if you will. However, it's diminishing my presence and my expertise within that. Sorry is another one. I know I just hit lots of listeners with that. Every time we talk about diminisher words, sorry is the number one that comes up for people. Sorry is not something that shows you are confident. It shows you're going to sit down and be quiet. So we want to flip that. That does not mean we're not going to own the situation. So anything that's going on, we are absolutely going to take care of it. We're going to own it. We're going to just state it a little bit more confidently. So instead of, I'm so sorry I'm running late for the meeting, and you're sitting down, walk in and say, thank you for your patience. The traffic today was a little bit crazy. Okay? Very different. Subtle, but very different. So we're going to thank them. So if something is going awry, instead of so sorry that this is happening, I will take care of it, we are going to respond with, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. Here's what we're going to do. It exudes confidence. It raises your credibility instead of diminishes within words. There's a whole list of them. If anybody's interested, reach out to me and I can send that list to you.
That's great. Yeah.
It's hard to do. Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think I see it all the time, especially from people, email marketing. They use those words a
Yes.
lot. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
Just circling back around. Sorry for the ping.
Yes. 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 So here's what I'm hearing from the listeners right now is because this is what I always get pushback on is what am I supposed to say then? Okay. So here's your nugget. If you are following up, you're trying to get business and you're following up. The just following up for the 12th time is what we're going to take off the table. And we're going to revert back to what you have talked about in the past. So it may sound something like, hi, Peter, happy Monday to you. Looks like we had talked on October 10th. Here are the 3 items that we covered. Looking to see if you would be interested in getting some time this week or the following week to discuss. So we're taking off the follow-up. We're taking off the just. And what we're leaning on is what you cared about, what client cared about in our initial discussion. So we're bringing that to the forefront. The reason why we're doing this goes back to psychological effect. The reason why we're doing this is because it's not our client or potential client's job to remember everything for us. It is our job to remember everything for them. So they're busy just like we are, but they are our center in our world. We are not theirs. So we want to make sure that we are communicating with transparency all the time. We assume a lot in sales. We assume that the client remembered we reached out to them 2 months ago. Nope, they do not. They have a lot of stuff going on. So we need to take that off the plate and we need to remind. constantly remind, to allow them to not work and say, oh yeah, we did talk about, yep, we need to talk about that. Right? So that's one of those things that are kind of a 2-for-1. We're taking out the diminisher words, and then we're moving in a little bit of a psychological effect there.
Yeah, that's really good. Also, so those are some words. What about body language and tone and timing? The nonverbal stuff you talk about, that's so important in psychology. How do they play into sales? Any tips and any examples?
Yes, I would argue, this is a big statement, but I would argue that you could sell someone without ever saying a word. And
Interesting.
that's your 3 power skills. So you're going to own the room is what you're going to do. And you can shift the energy in the room just by the energy you have by walking into a room. And your 3 are, they seem mundane, but I'm telling you, they're powerful. The 3 are posture, your hands, and then your eye contact. Those are your 3 most valuable 30-second shift of communication that you have. So let's back it up a little bit. If we're thinking of posture, posture does a really great thing. Everyone knows that we need to have good posture. However, we are sitting all day. So if you're doing a lot of virtuals, I guarantee your posture tends to wane on that. Checking in on that. If we are walking into a meeting, or if we are walking into a networking event, a lot of times, most of the time, we'll have our phone. The phone is what we call a low power position. So as soon as you look at that, you are now cut off. That means I am not interested in talking to anybody in this room, so do not come talk to me. You're not open and welcome, if you will. So we want to make sure that that phone is completely put away. That thing will always tell people subconsciously that it is more important than they are. So we need to put it completely away. Lots of research done on posture. They've done one with people who were born blind, and those who became athletes, when they would win in their event, they would do the power pose, the high power winning stance. And when they lost, they would go into that low power. This is an innate posture for us to be drawn into people. We look for winners in a room, every room that we walk into. So posture gives us that. It gives that communication of, hey, I'm welcoming and please come talk to me. Number 2 are your hands. Your hands are your trust factors. We subconsciously, as humans, this is just a human psychological effect that we have, we're constantly making sure that we're safe as humans. So we're wandering around in a grocery store, airport, networking event, wherever that is, and we're constantly subconsciously looking to see if we're going to be safe, or if the people walking to us or by us seem to not feel as safe. And hands do that for us. There's a lot of studies in this. One of the most recent ones, which is really fascinating, is that they took all the TED Talks up to 2019 and wanted to know why some went viral, some did not. And the one reason why all the ones that went viral did was because they used twice as many hand gestures. We lean into our trust factors. So a couple things that you can do there: don't put them in your pockets. Don't hide them by crossing your arms, possibly, depending on your audience. Making sure that when you're sitting, that they're visible. So if you want them in your lap, pull your chair back a little bit, or put them on your desk, or the desk in the boardroom. Talk with your hands. I get people all the time, oh, I talk too much with my hands. Probably not. Actually, probably not. Very few people talk too much with their hands. So I would say you're okay there. And then the last one is your eye contact, which is probably the one you're thinking that's the easiest. Yes, in a one-to-one session. But if we get to one-to-many, so if we're thinking back to like a boardroom or a networking event, when there's one-to-many, we scan heads instead of make eye contact. So we want to work on, when we're walking into that event, making sure that we're making eye contact with 3 different people. You can pick your number. 3 is always mine. And what that does is that, along with the posture and the hands, invites people in for communication and for connecting, right? Interestingly enough, eye contact is the same as a really big, good hug. It creates oxytocin for us. So when we do that, there is a connection response in the brain and the body.
That's really interesting. But again, it gets back to the human condition as social animals, you know.
100%. And no one here's the thing is I think it's fascinating that this isn't at the forefront of how we teach business and how we teach sales. Because business and sales is a human connection. Bottom line. You have to have human to human connection to have a really great, successful transaction, if you will. But long-term partnership, mutual success, all of the things that everyone is wanting in their day-to-day job relies on another human connection. So when we lean into that and we take everything else that still is really important, all the knowledge that we have, all the industry information that we have, all this stuff's vital. But we don't put that way out at the front. We put it maybe more towards the center, and then we move that human element to the front. You will get further every single time because you are connecting with a human.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's do you find it a little bit scary that we're quote doing so much over video conference, over our phones? Now we have the impact potential of AI entering the sales space. Does that concern you? Because I can't think of anything more inhuman than talking to a screen or having a computer.
Yeah.
It just I know I know it's coming. I know we got to figure it out, but it just to me it concerns me.
Yeah. We it doesn't concern me enough to really put any sort of spotlight on it. I do think it we need to have awareness around it.
Okay.
But to your point, back to the human condition, we do not survive without human connection. Literally do not survive. They've done a lot of studies around this
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
people who are isolated die very young.
Yep.
And people who have communities live forever, right? It's part of being human. And so I do not think, no matter what happens with technology, I do not think that we will fully ever get to a space where things like conferences don't matter and coffee meetings don't matter and going into the office if you have one however many times doesn't matter. I'm all for home office too, by the way, but I think there's a balance that can be had there. Because to your point, it's not going away. It's gonna get stronger and stronger. But due to that core human connection that we need, I do not see it being super scary in my world. I do think it has COVID pushed for virtual. We had known for a long time in the sales element that we needed to be doing video. No one did it. But literally no one did it. We would get preached about all the time. Any sales training would be like the best way to have connection and to get somebody on the phone is to send over a video of yourself saying hello. No one did it. COVID hit, everyone does it now. Everyone does it.
Right.
And it's amazing because we visually connect first. So I think video conferencing, Zoom, whatever your choice is good. If you can't meet in person, that's kind of your second avenue. By the way, all the nonverbal stuff that we talked about still comes into play virtually, so be mindful of that. The AI is interesting to me. There's lots of talk around it. I do think it is new enough still that we don't know where it's going. We use it here as a support system and as a tool. So I think of it as a CRM system or any other, your teams where you're constantly pinging your team members all day long. It's a tool that you can use. So I think if you're using it 100% of the time for everything, maybe not the best, but it is a tool for you to support and help you. We use it here for LinkedIn posts. We do it for drafting emails. We also have a company that we're working with tightly that does virtual role play. So when we're done doing a training session or a one-to-one session, anything that we talked about, then now the client goes into that AI world and they are role playing with AI on what we talked about. So let's say, for example, your hello or your elevator pitch when you're walking into a networking event. We've worked on that in real time, and now we are going to practice it with this. The beauty of this one, of course, due to it's centered around our world and what we do, is that it doesn't just listen to you and give feedback on virtual, it's watching you. So it gives feedback on your nonverbal communication as well. And I think that that is amazing and impressive that we can offer that in a way, because it's really hard to say, okay, well, you get so much time with us and let's role play, or now go out and role play with a peer, which maybe happens once. And so this gives that availability and that tool for people to really help and support. Now, I will just say on the stuff that we write through AI, we always take it out of AI and change it up a bit to make sure that it sounds and is me, if you will. So I think that's how we use it to grow, but not use it to deplete.
I wanted to, so we talked about verbal, nonverbal. I don't know how much we talked yet about emotion. Some salespeople get really excited, almost breathless. They're so excited to sell a commercial general liability policy to somebody. But
I mean, that's exciting. Come on now.
it is, it can be. But emotion, and also you talked about how people make decisions on emotion, and that there's a lot that could be a whole separate podcast, versus things like price. They're using different sides of their brain and they rationalize it later. But so like emotion and storytelling, can you speak a little bit about the importance of that? How much is too much? And I think, people kind of live, this goes back to caveman days when people would put stuff on the side of the walls of the caves. They would tell a story, here's how we killed a giant, elephant or whatever.
Love that. Yeah. Yes. So let's talk about emotion first. The emotion that we needs to be in check. I agree with you. When we have, I always say that salespeople love to throw up on themselves because we get super excited if we get somebody's time. Somebody gave us time. Oh my gosh. So you know what I'm going to do now? I'm going to tell you everything in the world that we can do. I'm going to put it all up on the wall here for you, and then you just decide if something fits for you, right? We get so excited that we have to cover literally everything that we have knowledge on. That's too much. And that's called pitching, by the way. And we need to roll it way back. And so the emotional balance is definitely real. And then there's that fine line of nervousness or anxiousness and getting excited. I don't know, I'm sure you're aware of this, but for the listeners, a fun fact is that excitement and fear can't live in the same space, which is really fun. They both feel very similar. So if we have some fear or anxiety, really having that mindset check of, okay, I'm a bit anxious about this. You know what I need to do? I need to be excited about this opportunity. I'm excited to just speak to someone. I'm excited to listen to what they have to say and start that mindset shift into excitement. Now, where it gets overkill is where we get overly anxious and overly, oh my gosh, it's so great to see you. And we do way too much. So what's happening there with that is that we're just in iframe. We are talking all about I and what we can do. We need to get into that, flip it back into that curiosity standpoint of learning and growing with them and supporting with them to have success. I always say, if the client has success, you're going to have success. So don't worry about your own success, because if you support them in getting the success that they need, your success is going to be there. So really that mindset shift of focusing on them. And then the storytelling is so magical. Everyone can relate to something. Right? And I think that, when I was taught in sales and we were taught around how to tell a story, it was very generic. It was very dry. it was very uh, social proofing as best, where we say, well, we've helped client X do this and we could do the same thing for you, right? That would have been the storytelling. I think that now there's so many unique angles on a human element that we can come to. We're all at the same conferences. We're talking primarily to the same people. We're seeing the same things and talking around this curiosity of what's happening in their world and saying, oh my gosh, that happened to me as well. What did you see from that? Like, that's more of that collaborative storytelling than standing up, quote unquote, on stage and saying, let me tell you a story about X. The other thing that we talk about a lot over here within storytelling is something that we switch it to say it's your through line. So what is your through line of messaging? If you had 10% of everything that you were going to say in an hour meeting, what is the 10% that you want to make sure you leave with that client? What's your through line? And that through line could be that you are interested in supporting them in every angle and curious to learn more around that. That could be the through line, and we can communicate that. It could be something around turn time and quick service and all of those things. Now that's buzzy. We need to make sure that we're aware of that that's buzzy, and changing up the wording on that can help. But it is real. It's absolutely real. So, one of the things that you're curious about is working with clients who appreciate response in real time and getting back to them very quickly. That's something that you pride yourself on. That's your 10%, right? That's a story. We're calling it something different, but it's part of the journey. And so I think there's lots of different nuances with that. And then the more you get into it, the more you're going to relate to different people in the industry, who knows who, all of those stories come up organically.
Interesting. Is the 10% the piece that out of all the stuff you say that you want them to retain? Is that what you're saying there?
Yes. So the
Okay.
fun fact is that humans cannot retain more than 10%
Right.
of what you tell them,
Right. I was going
which
to say,
sucks.
I may
That
be
is
below that myself,
right.
being that I'm
Depends on the
ADD.
moment. Yeah, it depends on the day.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also depends on who's speaking. But
Okay,
I
so in
think
that case, Amy, is fewer words actually more then?
yes.
Because a lot of times
Yes.
people want to pack it in, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would say don't pack it in, number one. Two, ask a lot more. So what we tend to do is say, tell me about X, and then they'll tell you about X, and then use solution. So if we're in a coaching session, I would tell you to not solution right away. Go back to tell me about X. Client's going to tell you about X, and then you're going to say, okay, I would like you to dive in a little bit more on X for me. Can you tell me about this? Or can you tell me about this? We're going to stay with the client instead of solution. So that's like your 3 why funnel, if you will. Ask why multiple times in a different way. It could be, tell me more around that, or can you explain that further for me? Lots of different nuances in that question. But what you're doing is you're gaining intel. You're gaining knowledge instead of just flipping right to the solution. Oh, I got that for you. I know what that is, right? We're going to sit with that client more to really discover what's happening. Back to your point earlier of everybody has a lot going on. If they're worried about compliance or their team being stressed or overloaded, those types of things, you would not know that if you went right to solution. You're going to find that out when you sit more with the client and have those conversations.
Yeah.
So that's really where that magic happens. And so you may not get to the 5 things on your agenda, but you got to the one thing the client needed. And so that's the value. We talk about value a lot. Value is overrated, that word. All value is what matters to the client. It has nothing to do with you. So at the end of the day, if it matters to the client, that's the value. If it matters to the client that they sat in the struggle bus of, man, my team is really struggling right now. They're stressed. They're pulled at every single angle. We really need some support on this. That's the value you need to come in with, not the 3 other things in your agenda.
Yeah.
We need to listen more on that. The other thing to your, we try to pack that in. That's something, again, that's a business element that we're taught. But back to, we only remember 10% of a meeting. If it's a 5-minute meeting, if it's an hour meeting, we're still only going to remember 10%. So the biggest thing on that is, again, prep your 10%. What's the thing that you're hoping that they walk away from? And then 2, the other reason why we do that is because we need to plan for the weird. We need to plan for things going awry.
Yeah.
What happens if technology doesn't work? What happens if you have a presentation that doesn't load? What happens if the person in the room that really needs to be in the room leaves 15 minutes in? All of those things have happened and will continue to happen. And so we really need to prep for, what is that messaging that would make this meeting worth my time and their time if it's that 10% focus.
Well, Amy, you're an accomplished professional. You're a trainer, writer, author, etc. You've seen it all. But what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, that's such a great question. I would say trust your confidence earlier. That's what I would tell my younger self.
Yeah.
I had the confidence. I did not always show it until I felt really settled. And so I would say to my younger self, don't be so settled. You have it. Show it earlier.
And I suspect a lot of younger selves out there, and you touched on it. I particularly female, they need to do that. It is so, I am so excited about the women's groups in the insurance industry in particular. There are, I think I saw a number, there's 70% of the workforce is female, 30% in the C-suite or executive positions, including the C-suite. I might have the 70 wrong, and it flips. So it's 70% female in the industry, but it's 70% of men have the executive positions. So there's a lot of momentum behind flipping that switch around so that it's more, they're not going to be equal per se, but just because people need to buy from people who they want to buy from. The future is going to look a lot different. So let's work on it, and they are working on it. And you've seen it because a lot of your tribe in the insurance industry are female executives who want to work with you, right? So I'm calling it out. As an older white guy, I can do what I want now. So
I love it.
We had a good run, but it's over, man. It's time for you guys to step in and kick some butt.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's so many amazing women that I've met in the insurance space that are unbelievably powerful. Knowledge, confidence, caring, all the things that they do really, really well is so impressive to me. And to your point, sky's the limit on that. Absolutely, sky's the limit on that.
Yeah. Well, Amy, I could listen to you all day long. It's been really fun. I thank you for taking some time out. I wish you all the best with the business. And for those again who want to check out Amy's stuff, salesandpresence.com. And I look forward to seeing you down the road, Amy.
You too. Thanks so much for having me on.
You bet.
This has been On Point with Peter Van Artryk, a podcast presentation of Wells Media Group.